everyone, Madison here with Health by Ratio. My team and I of licensed physical therapists, functional movement coaches, corrective exercise specialists, and functional health coaches all work holistically online to create programs for our clients to move them away from recurring pains and injuries and instead get them moving back to full range of stable motion so they can enjoy the active lives that they love to live, whether that's around sports and athletics, or whether that's just like enjoying exercising and staying healthy around it, or playing with the grandkids and being functional throughout their day-to-day lives and all the above. So what I want to talk about in today's video is all about core activation, specifically around the hinging pattern of what we do throughout our daily lives. And hip hinging is something that we do constantly. We do it first thing in the morning when we bend over the sink to wash our face. We do it every time we go to unload the dishwasher or bend over to pick up a couple of heavy bags off the ground. And it shows up in our activities like gardening or doing chores around the house and that kind of stuff. And it's the motion where we are hinging at the waist, sticking our butt back on our heels and folding forward. It's not like a squat pattern where we're bending the knees more. We're more driving from the hips. And sometimes it's neutral with our feet. Sometimes it's in a staggered stance, like we're grabbing something and then moving on with our day. And this is a common thing that we have to recondition with many of our clients, especially those that deal with chronic SI joint instability. So one of their hips is getting thrown out of alignment on a regular basis, and or lumbar lower back pain. It's a really, really common thing that our clients are missing. Like we have several of our clients currently right now that we're working on, but we've had literally dozens upon dozens over the years that we have needed to recondition this pattern on over and over and over again. And the impetus of today's call was stemming from one of our clients, Kim, who is a dance teacher. She works with a lot of kids. She owns her own studio, and she's bending over often to work with the kids in her classes, and she was having this chronic issue with her SI joint getting thrown out of alignment. And the reason for it was because when she was hinging, and this is not unique to Kim. This is super common. Like our yoga instructors do this all the time. Our Pilates instructors do this all the time. And all kinds of our different athletes do this all the time. When she was hinging at the hips, she was doing the dreaded cue of pulling the belly button in toward her lower back. And this is a terrible cue. I don't know who invented this thing. Is like just a miserable thing that started wrecking backs left and right, because when we pull the belly button in toward the core, we don't tighten this core. The core is more like a cylinder that wants to stay solid all around this thing, as well as above and below. We got the diaphragm above it and the pelvic floor below it, and then we have this kind of 360-degree tissue that stabilizes this thing. When we pull it in, think about a can, how stable it is when it has its normal cylinder, but if you dent in one side of it and then you it all collapses. It doesn't stabilize, right? So that's the same thing that happens when we dent in the can. We pull this belly button in toward the lower back, and then we hinge forward, we take out the activation of the front side of the cylinder and we put all this tension into the back side as we fold forward. And the telltale sign of that is what happens to the lower back as we are initiating that hinge. Because if you guys are looking at me from the side right now and I get my arm out of the way, we see right now that I have a normal arch in my lower back. I got this normal curvature. Well, as I hinge, if I do it properly, I should be able to maintain that arch as I hinge down and then maintain it as I come up. But if I pull my core in, if I pull the belly button in, the first thing that we're going to see is my arch goes away. I now have the flat back position. I'm not here, I'm here. And I can sometimes maintain that and just stay kind of flat as I go down, or more often than not, I'm going to start rounding. And that puts all this tension into the SI joint, especially if I have one foot forward in front of the other. I'm in the midst of teaching a class. I'm gardening, like our client Marnie was talking about with us over the weekend. And I have one foot forward and I bend over this way. Well, now I have that belly button in and I just rounded the back. I put more tension on one hip versus the other, and the SI joint's out of alignment. So how do we fix this thing? How do we create stability around this body and retrain this core not to pull the belly button in, but to stay solid? Well, the first thing is we got to address any mobility restrictions that might be causing us to do this. And that can be stemming from potentially the hamstrings. If we're not able to get into this position, if they're so tight, we have to start rounding. That's going to be one root cause. But if the hamstrings are really tight, the next question is why? Because it's almost never just the hamstrings' fault. Is there something going down at the calves and the Achilles and the bottoms of the feet? Is there something happening at the hip flexors or the quads that's pulling on the hips in a certain position that's yanking the hamstrings taut? What's the real cause of that hamstring tightness? That's question number one from below the body. The next thing is above the body. There's a couple of key things that we want to be mindful of. One is our internal rotators of the shoulder, the protractors of our scapula. If these guys are dominant, if our chest and our internal rotators, our anterior delt, if our upper traps, if our lats, like if we have this tendency to roll into this position, what that does is when our shoulders roll forward here, that disengages my big mid back muscles there. When I go here, they relax. And those big back muscles run into my core stabilizers. So when these guys go slack, the core stabilizers go slack or are much more apt to going slack. And so now if I have my shoulders roll forward, I'm going to be much more likely to round and collapse and put all this extra tension into my lower back that I don't want. So that's another big factor. A lot of us have some tension around the abdomen, around the ribs, around the pectorals, and around the shoulder girdle that pull us here from obviously anything from typing to driving to anything that's kind of rolling us forward, bad posture when we're sitting, that's going to tighten us up this way. So if we have any tightnesses above and below the area, then we got to address those first and foremost, because otherwise we're playing tug of war against our own body. Now, once we've addressed those guys, which is the kind of the first thing that we encourage our clients to work through and what we're trying to kind of systematically target with it, like, hey, hit these 3 spots each day, do these couple of stretches, do these few mobilizations on your foam rolling and trigger point work, and this is going to free up this gunk in the coming weeks. Now, let's teach you how to do it correctly. And as soon as you learn how to do it correctly, it makes all the difference in the world. For our client Kim, it happened within days. Like she had this SI joint instability going on for months. And as soon as we addressed the imbalances that were pulling on her the wrong direction on the tightness side and taught her these cues, she felt amazing right away. And this is incredibly common for the people that we're working with, because the cues that we're going to work through are, one, shoulders back. We're going to think about, like, let's say we're doing this neutral stance. We want to get into an active standing position to get our glutes and our core and our back woken up. So we're going to squeeze the glutes first. Okay, so I got my glutes clenched. Then I'm going to tighten my core, not pull the belly in. I'm just going to tighten it up as if someone was about to punch me in the stomach. That's how I'm activating this guy. And then last but not least, I'm going to think big chest. So I like to have the hands at the chest and pull the shoulders back. Think big chest here. That turns on all these big back muscles that run into the core. It helps them stay stable. Now, with keeping that big chest position, all I'm doing is sticking my butt back on my heels, and I want soft knees as I do so. I'm not squatting as I go down, but I'm also not locking my knees out as I fold forward. So soft knees, and just stick the butt back on the heels. And by maintaining those shoulders back, I'm not letting them go this direction at all. I can maintain that arch in my back. My belly is solid here. The whole cylinder's there. And now my cue to get back up is just clench the butt cheeks as I stand up. Clench the butt cheeks, clench your butt cheeks, clench your butt cheeks. I'm now upright again. I'm going to do that again. Control down with my shoulders neutral, pin back, and then squeeze the glutes as I stand back up there. The other thing that I want to be mindful of, because this is a common deviation that we got to work with, but it's also dealing with another part of the body, is if we tend to have any kind of neck tension, often that is going to stem from a habit where if we constantly go down like this, the body's natural compensation is to have the neck pull up and look straight ahead as we go down, because now I kind of create this artificial tension into my upper back and neck that I don't really want, but it's a compensation for when the shoulders are rolled forward. So often, even if I try to maintain my shoulders back, I'll still crane my neck up as I'm going down, because I've just learned to do that for so long. So I want to make sure that I keep my neck neutral. So right now, my chin is in chin tuck position. My eyes are straight ahead. As I go down, I should maintain that position, and my chin should now be straight down, and my eyes should be straight down. That's what's keeping this neck neutral. And then I'm squeezing the glute to come back up. If I'm in a staggered stance, it's the exact same principle. I'm just focusing on one glute at a time. So if I have my 1 foot forward, I'm going to squeeze this glute, core is tight, shoulders are back. Now I'm going to stick that butt back on my heels. And as I'm down here, I got my normal arch on my back, shoulders and core nice and active. Can grab whatever I need to grab, and then I'm going to squeeze this glute and lift me back up. Same thing would happen if I'm in a kneeling position. So I'm down, I'm working into the garden here. I want to stick the butt back on my heels. I'm keeping my shoulders back. That's allowing me to keep my neutral arch, do whatever I need to do, and then squeeze the glute to come back up. Or if I'm in a half kneeling position, I'm hinging down. I'm keeping that back neutral. I'm grabbing whatever I need to grab, and then I'm squeezing that glute to lift me back up. So we want to keep that shoulder engagement, neck neutral, core solid, and not belly button in. That's what kills the lower back. That's what kills our SI joint stability there. So if we can solve those tightnesses that pull us in that direction, and then we can be mindful of these cues as we're hinging, then we can reprogram our central nervous system. We can teach our glutes and our core to stabilize us and keep us in a really good harmonious position throughout our days. So, guys, if you want any specific one-on-one free help for you, that is why we offer our 2 free consultation calls. The first call is an information gathering call. It's relatively quick, but it's for us to find out your history and also your goals, what you want to achieve. The second call, though, is more extensive. It's with you and we connect over a video assessment to see how your body is moving and all of its major movement patterns, how it's squatting, how it's hinging, how it's lunging, how it walks, all the above. And we take a look at the specific ranges of motion that you have throughout your ankles and your hips and your thoracic spine, your shoulders, your neck, all that good stuff, and see what is pulling on your body and yanking on this thing in one way or another so that we can create a game plan together on that call that you can take with and run with yourself on how to mobilize this body properly and then how to strengthen it correctly and how to teach this thing how to move back to the full ranges of stable motion around whatever activities that you enjoy. We'll attach a link below this video for our calendar where you can schedule your first free call. We can't wait to see you there.